Hi everyone. Today's unit is Unit 7, which is Business Law, and we'll be doing Learning Outcome today, which is Learning Outcome 3, and my name is Shazia Khan. We'll be looking at examining the formation of different types of business organisations. So before I go on to that, we'll look at what we did in the last session. Does anyone remember what we did? I'll give you a bit of a summary of what we did. So in Learning Outcome 2, we looked at illustrating the potential impact of law on a business. We looked at contract law, how a contract is formed, the formation of a contract. We also looked at the elements and terms of a contract. We looked at what competition law was and why it was so important for a business, and data protection. And the importance of data protection in regards to issues in regards to stakeholders, investors, and the information that needs to be provided about staff. We looked at the tort of negligence. We also looked at consumer protection, product liability. We looked at health and safety, and why it's so important within an organisation. We looked at duties of an employer and employee. And then we looked at managing dismissal, discrimination, redundancy, any issues around that and how it was managed and the procedure around it. Today, we're going to be looking at examining the formation of different types of business organisation. So the indicative content today is the nature and formation of a contract or a company. So we're going to look at unincorporated against incorporated legal structures, different types of business organisation and legal structures such as sole trader, partnership and registered company, classification of company, the digital role of company's house or role of equivalent international organisations, starting up a business organisation and registration requirements, the management of a company, so appointment of directors, company secretary, auditor, the role of shareholders, and the application of company law in forming different types of business organisations, such as raising capital and liquidation. A history and understanding of relevant case law indicating the importance of both common law and legislation in the development of company law and business formation. So the key terminology, firstly, we look at the nature and formation of a company. Company formation is the process of registering your business as a limited company through Companies House. The UK's government official registrar of companies. It's the only body in the UK permitted to officially incorporate a company. And before we go on to looking at anything now, we'll look at what is the meaning of a company. So a company is a legal entity formed by a group of individuals to engage and operate in a business enterprise in a commercial or industrial capacity. A company's business line depends on its structure, which can be ranged from a partnership to a proprietorship or even a corporation. Why do you think it's so important that businesses are registered with Company House?
So that they basically follow a particular structure and are abiding the law.
Yeah. So they're abiding what the law says, because it's so important you identify what the law says and why it's so important in regards to business structures. So we're looking at unincorporated against incorporated legal structures. So as a business owner, you have several options when it comes to legal structure of your business. Choosing the right model for your organization will depend on several key factors. How you feel about risk, any concerns you have about protecting your personal assets, and even the amount of paperwork you are willing to do can help you decide if an incorporated or unincorporated business is right for you. Incorporating is designing to protect you from risk, but may offer appealing benefits as well. The type of business you operate, your goals, and even your need to protect personal assets will impact on your decision. Learning more about incorporation can help you decide if your approach is right or not. So now we're going to go on to look at the difference between unincorporated legal structures and incorporated legal structures. So unincorporated businesses do not have a separate legal identity from their owners, which means that the owners are legally responsible for the activities of the business. They are personally liable for any losses or debts incurred by the company and share the risks, costs, benefits, and responsibilities that come with the running of a business. Each partner is also responsible or liable for the other partner's negligence or misconduct. A partner's profits and losses are split among the partners. This will be in accordance with the agreed upon profit ratio, sharing ratio, with each partner paying tax on their share of profits. That's unincorporated legal structures. Incorporated legal structures is an incorporated business has a legal separate identity, personality. This detaches itself from the shareholders, who are the owners, and directors, who are the managers. Having a separate legal personality means that the individuals are not generally liable for the business debts. So do you think it's better to have an incorporated or uncorporated business?
If we are seeing the risk from that perspective,
Yeah.
incorporated may be the better solution, but it has varying profitability and shareholding.
Yeah. Some places would prefer the incorporated. I think more would prefer incorporated than unincorporated.
Yeah.
Business incorporation establishes your company as a separate legal entity. You are still the owner, but by using the legal structure, you can gain clear financial and tax advantages for your company. When you incorporate your business, you select one of the several legal structures to operate under, depending on your current and potential future needs and the nature of your business. While you can choose an initial structure for your company, it is possible to change as it grows and matures. Different types of business organization and legal structures, for example, sole trader, partnership, and registered company. And we're going to go through each one. Okay, so I'll give you a little bit of identification of what each type of business does as well. Identifying the right legal UK business structure is a crucial part of a business startup. When you start a business, the structure you choose will have significant implications on the amount of tax you pay, the degree of your personal liability should the business fail, the amount of administrative work involved, and even your ability to raise finance. As your business structure clearly defines your legal responsibilities, it is essential to put the time into researching which structure is the best fit for you. The legal business structure is something you need to decide at the outset, although you can change it later on if you're required. All business structures have advantages and disadvantages depending on factors such as the size of your business, the nature of your business, and the future plans for your business. So why do you think it's so important when we look at the three main legal forms of businesses in private sector: sole partnership, sole trader, partnership, or company? Why do you think it's so important to identify which business you want to go into, or what you want to be a sole trader, partnership, or company? Why do you think all of them have implications?
Yeah, different laws apply to different structures, and they operate differently as well.
So give me an example of
I
a
mean,
sole trader.
a sole trader can be a small business, a barber shop, or something like
Yes,
a restaurant.
excellent.
And mostly sole
Partnership?
traders have limited. Yes,
What about a partnership?
partnerships can be implemented the same way. A restaurant can be in partnership, but it can also be a big corporation as well.
Yeah. So if you had to set up a business, an example, Nandish, would you take into account all the information before you set it up as a sole trader, partnership, or a company?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Because, your finances need to be taken into account, your staffing levels, all these insurances, indemnity insurances, things like that. Lots of things need to be taken into account when you're setting up a business. So first one is a sole trader. And this is a simple and an agile business structure, but it can occur a lot of personal risk. Sole traders are individuals who run a business on their own with no separate legal personality or limitation of liability and no legal formalities or administration or filling requirements. There is no separation between the management and the ownership of the business. The sole trader owns all the assets personally and has full control over the business. Sole traders often rely on their own savings and perhaps secured business loans to start their business. Costs to set up sole trader can be fairly minimal depending upon the type of business you are establishing. However, this business structure exposes you to more personal risk than other businesses, so it may not be suitable for a high-cost startup. So sometimes sole traders may be something that people want to go into, like you said, the barber's shop or a news agent or anything like that. But sometimes it's your own money, so it's your own personal risk, isn't it? So, you know, sometimes everything belongs to you. So it's your own savings, your own, you know, if you've taken a loan out, so you have the risk to deal with, don't you?
Yeah.
Because you have the full control of the business. Then we've got partnerships. Partnerships are often found in professions such as solicitors, architects, accountants, and doctors, but can be found in any type of business activity. They are streamlined set of business partners who know and trust each other well. Partnerships fall into three categories: ordinary or traditional partnerships, limited partnerships, or limited liability partnerships. Registered company. So you have a limited company. A limited company is a privately managed business owned by its shareholders and run by its directors. The company is a separate legal entity and it has its own legal rights and obligations. This means that the company is responsible for everything it does. Its finances are separate to the personal affairs of its owners. Any profits generated are retained by the company after it pays corporation tax. Only then can the profits be distributed to shareholders in the form of dividends. Limited companies can be limited either by shares or by guarantee, which is explained below. Plus, they have annual reporting and filing requirements with both Companies House and HMRC. Limited liability partnership. A limited liability partnership is similar to a partnership, except that the partner's liability is limited to the amount of money they invest in the business. So the limited liability partnership must be registered at Companies House with HMRC. Annual accounts must also be prepared and filed. A limited liability can be incorporated with 2 or more members, and a member can be individual or a company. Members' responsibilities and share of the profits are set out in the LLP agreement, and all members must submit a personal self-assessment tax return every year, pay income tax on their share of the partnership profits, and pay national insurance contributions to HMRC. Do you think it's good to have a limited liability partnership?
Yes, in terms of risk tolerance, it can help.
Yeah. In terms of risk, why?
Because it limits the risk to the basic amount invested in the business.
Yes, so it doesn't limit it for everything. It's just the amount you've invested, and it doesn't take your personal personal details into account as well. Classification of companies. So company forms of business have become immensely popular over the years. Their development has led to creation of so many types of companies. Companies are classified on the basis of liabilities, members on the basis of control. So we've got a classification of companies there. Companies on basis of liabilities, companies limited by shares, companies limited by guarantee, and unlimited companies. Companies on the basis of members is one-person companies, private companies, and public companies. Companies on the basis of control are holding and subsidiary companies and associate companies. The digital role of Companies House or equivalent international organisations. Companies House is a government section within the Department for Business, Skills and Innovation. It deals with the regulation and incorporation of limited liability partnerships and limited companies in the UK. As the official registrar of companies in the UK, they function in 3 separate countries: Northern Ireland, Scotland, and England and Wales. The major duties of Company House include inspecting and maintaining all information on limited partnerships and limited companies. The information displayed on the register of companies can be accessed online by the general public as well as businesses. All electronic data is available free which makes the UK the first country to create an incredibly open and obvious corporate information register. Consequently, the general public can effortlessly monitor and inspect the ownership, actions, and reliability of every company transacting business in the UK. So it's really good to have the Companies House because it's able to, you know, let the public go on and check everything as well. The UK's Registrar Companies House has said in its strategic plan that it wants to become a digital organisation focused on the use of data to inspire confidence and combat economic crime. The strategic plan sets out 6 goals for the future, focusing on registers, services, and people. Companies House said it wanted its registers and data to inspire trust and confidence, adding that it would maximise the value of its information to the UK economy and combat any sort of economic crime through active use of analysis and intelligence. And what kind of crimes can be combated?
Basically frauds, cyber fraud
Yeah,
can be combated, and basically it will orient around that as well, because say a company is showcasing a website that shows goods and services, but in
yeah.
reality that does not exist, or is
Yeah.
a shell company, or is a shell company.
That happens a lot, doesn't it?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that happens quite a lot where the companies don't exist, and like you said, they advertise their services. But you know, it could be things like, you know, combat economic crimes such as money laundering, maybe, you know, a
Yeah,
company
shell
is set
companies.
up for issues around money laundering. And do you think that's a big concern within, you know, a business and things?
Yes, definitely. Tax evasion and all that is a big concern for the country as well.
Yeah, so they want to put a strategic plan in place that tries to focus on, you know, combating any sort of economic crime through intelligence and analysis, and you know, to try and prevent this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're starting up a business organization, a successful small business must have 4 things in their corner: the product, market, the money, and people. Whether you're a startup looking for a venture capital or you just want to become a successful small business on your own, there are a few basic but important components every business must have. So firstly, there's 7 factors to creating a business. You must have a business idea. Why do you think it's important to have a business idea?
Because that is the good or service that we are providing.
Yes, that's the main thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you must have a business idea and spend time carefully thinking through your business idea to ensure that it's feasible. You must assess your situation, so you must understand what commitments running your business will involve. You know, how much time you need to put into it and things. You must have a business plan. Why is a business plan so important for any organization?
Uh, it plans both the time, effort, and money, all 3 things.
Yeah. Time, it's there. You need to create a plan for your business, including how it generates any sort of money. You need to research your business, and I personally think that's the biggest thing. Research. Why is research so important?
To know the market,
Yeah.
firstly, and therefore to orient or check is the service you are providing viable as well.
To identify if there's a need for it as well. You know, what the product you're introducing, whether there's a need for it. Research your business, research potential customers, research potential competitors, register your business, so choose the right business structure. Sort your business finances, so decide if you need external investment or a small business loan to help you get the business started. Get business advice. You know, there's so many services out there that give you business advice and also mentor you. So try to get business advice from someone to try and help and support you. Whatever the reason for setting up a business is, from being your own boss opens a new window to turning a hobby into a business opens a new window. Here are some steps that you will follow to you know, for your chance. So you need business ideas. You need to be able to know your customers. You need to be able to research your business and whether the business is going to be feasible or not. The registration requirements for starting a business. Companies must be registered in order to be legally recognised as a business in the UK. At very least, you will need to register with Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, which is HRMC, to ensure you are paying your taxes to the correct amount and deadline. Other forms of registration for licenses may be required depending on the size of your business or should be considered as you grow. These could include registering as an employer. 76% of the businesses in the UK are non-employing. That means that the only employees in the payroll is the owner. Registering as an at-home business or branching into street trading. The management of a company. With reference to company management, there are various stakeholders like directors, officers, managers, and shareholders who guide a company towards the fulfillment of its business objectives. Management has been defined as the process for planning, organizing, leading, and controlling the efforts of a company members and of using all company resources to achieve stated company goals. Hence, the occupation of management is to maintain control over the company's actions and performance and simultaneously to lead, inspire, and direct the people working in the company. This article studies organization hierarchy in a company management role of shareholders, directors, responsibilities, and types of officers in the company management. So the first one we've got is the appointment of directors. So what are company directors? A company director is someone who holds an office in a company. They take decisions for and on behalf of the company and can be held liable for the company's actions. A company director can be a person or legal entity, for example, another company. There are various types of company directors. However, the most important are executive directors. That's someone who is a company director while also performing day-to-day managerial duties and functions. And non-executive directors is someone who makes strategic decisions to drive the company forward, but doesn't carry out the daily functions. So you've got the next one is appointment of directors. The rules for appointing a director are set both by law and a company's governing document, which is called the Articles of Association. Make sure you read the articles before you start to check the process and requirements. A company's shareholders can appoint directors. This is usually done by passing an ordinary resolution in favour of appointment, i.e. a majority of the shareholders agree to the appointment. Make sure to check the articles to see whether they impose any different requirements, for example, requiring at least 75% of the shareholders to agree the appointment. A shareholder resolution can be used to appoint a new company director. The board of directors, also known as the board, can normally also appoint directors, but check whether the articles say that they can do this and whether the shareholders must then confirm the appointment at a general meeting. Executive directors are appointed by using a type of contract of employment, a service agreement, which covers their employment status, officers, director, and the relationship between these. A senior employment contract may also be used as an to appoint an executive director. Non-executive directors are appointed using a letter of appointment, which is an LOA. This is a contract setting out the terms of the appointment. In general, the board can decide the terms of the appointment. However, the law or company's articles will take priority over the letter of appointment or service agreement if there is a contradiction. Filing requirement on appointments. Appointment of a director must be notified to the company's house. They must be done within 14 days of the appointment. On the appointment of a new director, the company must also update its register of directors and register of directors' residential addresses. So it's really important you follow the process of, appointing a director. The next one is a company secretary. You do not need a company secretary for a private limited company. Some companies use them to take on some of the director's responsibilities. The company secretary can be a director, but cannot be the company's auditor or an undischarged bankrupt unless they have permission from the court. The restriction placed on a person when they made bankruptcy, usually, and when they're free from their debts, known as discharge, is in the insolvency register. Even if you have a company secretary, the directors are legally responsible for the company. An auditor. An auditor is a person of an organization that conducts a review of the annual financial statements of a company and makes an independent report to the owners as to whether the accounts have been properly prepared in accordance with the Companies Act. In the opinion of the auditor, give a true and fair representation of the financial position and performance of the business. The auditor will also consider if the information given in the director's report is consistent with the annual accounts, and if, in the auditor's opinion, the accounts or director's report does not comply with the Companies Act, they will have to say this in the report. Why do you think it's so important to have an auditor?
To check the finances and the functioning of the company. Basically, is it working accordingly as they are saying, or is there
Yeah.
discrepancies?
What about if there's any sort of, like you said, any discrepancies, any sort of fraud or anything happening in the company? Is, there is a need for the auditor to identify anything that's going on in the company,
Yeah, definitely.
because then the company, they need to know, the company directors. The role of shareholders. The shareholders of a company are effectively the company's financial supporters. They provide finance to a company by purchasing shares in the company and thus becoming shareholders and part owners of the company. Shareholders have certain rights and duties to perform as are set in the Companies Act 2006 and the company's Articles of Association. As a shareholders of limited company, they are protected from liabilities, save for the amount of shares they own, but they have not paid for. Shareholders also can be directors of the company. Whilst directors are responsible for the day-to-day management of the company and making decisions, the shareholder has specific roles and duties in relation to the control over the company. The role of shareholders under the Companies Act. Under the Companies Act 2006, major business decisions which would affect shareholders must be approved by the shareholders at a general meeting called by the directors of the company by way of a special resolution. Certain decisions can only be made by shareholders, such as removing a director from office, changing the name of the company, or authorizing a service contract for a director, which gives him job security for more than 2 years. In general, shareholders have little power over the directors and how they run the company. Their main role is to attend meetings, discuss whatever is on the agenda, and ensure the directors do not go beyond their powers, and provide shareholders' consents where required. So if they don't have much of a role within a company, is there need to have shareholders?
Yeah, they will be the answering authority if an issue comes up.
Yeah, I think there is a need to have them, but obviously their role is not predominantly quite a big role compared to the
Yeah,
director, but there is a need to have shareholders in place.
yeah, especially for a big corporation because it can abuse its power
Yeah,
otherwise.
the directors could go beyond their power, couldn't they, and abuse it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is the application of company law informing types of business organization and companies. So there are 4 types of business formations, and each one has its own advantages and disadvantages. Some are easy and inexpensive to form, while others provide you limited liability protection that protects your personal assets from creditors, claims, and lawsuits stemming from your business operations. Some businesses owners start off using one type of business formation and then change to a different type of form as their business grows. It enables companies to be created, provides a framework for their constitution, and contains various requirements, including for responsibilities of shareholders and directors. So raising capital. Capital raising definition refers to a process through which a company raises funds from an external source to achieve its strategic goal, such as an investment in its own business development or investment in other assets. For example, M&A, joint ventures, and strategic partnerships. There are a number of different ways in which a company can raise capital or finance. The two principal ways are through equity and through debt. These provide by far the most common ways of a company raising finance for projects or acquisitions or purchases. Each method will be looked at in turn with its relative advantages and disadvantages. The first and perhaps the favoured method is equity, which is finance. Broadly speaking, this involves a company assuming it is authorised to do so in its articles of association, issuing what are known as shares in the company to members of the public. From point of view of the buyer of the shares, they will become investors in the company, speculating with their own money and hoping to see a return on their investment if the company performs well and increases its net worth. From the company's point of view, it must attract investors to invest in the company by offering good returns. This basically means that they must always strive to perform as best as they can with the ultimate aim of increasing the value of the company. So when a company sells its shares to members, is it always the fact that the shareholder will make a profit?
No, definitely not. The
No.
company can go also bankrupt
I
or
mean,
may
what
not
kind
break even.
of companies would you say would be making a profit now?
Possibly a established business which has been running for a long time
So
and
give
then
me an
goes public.
example of a business that's been running for a long time that may, shareholders may be making a profit.
SpaceX is currently private, and if it goes public, it definitely will earn a profit.
Yeah. Which firm's that? So which organization?
SpaceX,
Yeah.
Elon Musk's, it's currently
So the-
private.
yeah. So these kind of organizations will make a profit, if they sell their shares, people will buy them, won't they?
Yes, definitely.
Because obviously because of the profit they're making. What about companies like Coca-Cola and things like that?
Yeah, they are also very long-running businesses,
Yeah.
and Berkshire Hathaway like companies already invested heavily in
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they do make profit, and their shareholders will be profiting from the shares that they put in.
yeah.
So the next one is liquidation. Liquidation is a formal process of closing a limited company. Liquidation can be used to bring about the end of a company due to insolvency, or simply as a means to extract the proceeds from a profitable and solvent company. There are three main types of liquidation in business: creditors voluntary liquidation, members voluntary liquidation, and compulsory liquidation. The most appropriate liquidation process for a company will depend on a number of factors, but mainly it will come down to the financial position of a business at the time of its liquidation. Do you think a lot of businesses do go into liquidation? And what do you think the reason is behind it? Is it always, that the company wants to end, or insolvency? What do you think it is?
Mostly it is not earning a profit.
Yeah. And also maybe owing a lot of financial debt as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Some companies do think that if they become bankrupt or go into liquidation, it's something that they may, benefit from if they're not paying their investors and competitors. So what
Yes.
is the liquidation process? Liquidation is a formal process to close a limited company. Once a company is knowingly insolvent, meaning it no longer able to service its outgoings and debt liabilities, as and when they fall due, the company may need to be placed into liquidation. A licensed insolvency practitioner will be appointed to handle the process. It will be their role to identify all company assets before selling or liquidating these for benefit of the creditors. Any outstanding debts which remain after this process will be written off unless they have been secured by director's personal guarantee. What's the director's personal guarantee?
I'm guessing it's the amount that he'll pay himself or he'll
Yeah,
manage.
yes, yeah. It's personal assets, yeah. The company will then be wound up with Companies House. It's namely removed from the register of limited companies, and it will cease to exist as a legal entity.
Is this insolvency practitioner external, or is it a person a company hires?
What's that? Sorry.
The licensed insolvency practitioner, is it a external person, or is it a internal company
No, it's an
person?
external person, and it would be someone that the Companies House would deal with as well.
Okay, okay,
So it would be someone, someone that's obviously, independent as well.
okay, not associated with government as well.
No, no.
Okay.
A history and understanding of relevant case law indicating the importance, both common law legislation and development of company law. So, the company law has developed historically over a long period of time. By the 1820s, the Industrial Revolution had gathered pace, pressing for legal change to facilitate business activity. Why do you think there was a need for change?
It promotes the raising capital much easy.
Yeah, but
Maybe.
also historically, there was a need for change because there were more businesses coming about, wasn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they needed, the change needed to be, incorporated because different people wanted to come in and open businesses and things like that. So the law changed. So by the 1820s, the Industrial Revolution had gathered pace, pressing for legal change to facilitate business activity. Restrictions were gradually lifted on ordinary people, incorporating until under the Joint Stock Companies Act 1844, it was possible through a simple registration procedure to incorporate. As a legal regime, company law traced some of its origins back until Tudor times. The first companies were set up by merchant adventurers, often under royal charters. We then had statutory companies set up by private act of Parliament to establish canals and then railways. These were ways of incorporating business, were unwidely and expensive, but in reality, company law, as we know, is a product of the mid-19th century. Do you think there was a need for the changes in company law?
Yeah, as the article definitely says, it was expensive and was troublesome to form a company. Now it's become much easier and smooth for businesses to transition and develop and
Yeah.
legalize themselves.
Why do you think it's a lot easier now?
Firstly, uh, uh, the process is open source, and anyone can read it from his home and then act accordingly on the same device as well, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So it did become a lot easier for companies to kind of, now, and it was something that shaped back to the 19th century. And it developed through, in medieval times, it was traders would do business through common law, such as partnerships. And this was when people at that time acted together with a view to make a profit, to be honest. And that was the best known example was in 1600 the British East India Company, where Queen Elizabeth granted the exclusive right to trade with all countries to the east of Cape of Good. And that was an example of company law becoming increasingly integrated within the UK. So, there was a need for the changes to come about for all this to facilitate and become a good area of forming a business. So company law today, the government's objective for company law is to provide a framework that gives companies the flexibility to compete and grow effectively. An important part of this is ensuring that creditors, customers, and suppliers have information they need in order to be able to do business with the company with confidence. So they don't want any, complaints, or they don't want any issues around compensation or any claims of, health and safety claims, or any claims of, a business being sued. It endeavours to ascertain the financial performance of a company, the status of its assets, whether there are outstanding debts or legal claims that could prove problematic, and whether there are environmental, intellectual property or antitrust liabilities that could affect the value of a company going. So, you know, there are lots of changes being made with company house and things like that today, because, you know, again, when we talked about it, then this, you know, the fact that there was lots of corruption and lots of crime being you know, done in regards to companies, and why they were being set up, anti, you know, crime, money laundering, things like that. So the reasoning behind it was quite a big reason for the changes to come about. But, you know, the changes are needed to come about. I don't know what you think of it, and Nandish or Ashu. Is there need for companies to be protected more?
Yeah, definitely the changes were very necessary, and the formalization of the structure was as well, because the lot of companies in the 19th century as
Yeah.
well as the 20th century, mostly in 20th century, were fake companies, and to protect the people themselves, it was very necessary for the company law to develop as it is now.
Yeah, it needs to, and now, even now, to prevent any sort of corruption, fraud, things like that, there needs to be reforms, stricter reforms to come in place.
Yeah, definitely, more stricter. Yeah.
Yeah. And some of the references we've used today in regards to today's session, and we've finished some preliminaries at the end, but we've finished the session now, learning outcome 3. Have you got any questions?
No, not from my side.
Ashu, have you got any questions?
No.
Ishika, sorry, I had a session. Have you got any questions or anything, Ishika?
No.
Okay, I've put an article there it's on Hysons.co, and it looks at incorporated and unincorporated structures. So if you want to have a look at that and read around that, these will be available on Monday, the slides for you on Moodle. And if you've got any, if you've got no questions, thank you for attending today's session. And I will see you in tomorrow's session, which is at 11 o'clock for learning outcome 4. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for attending today's session.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.